fascinating biblical discoveries have been uncovered at ancient Shiloh. This is where Joshua divided the land between the 12 tribes, where Hannah prayed for a son, and where the tabernacle stood for 400 years.
For centuries, the Bible has been more than just scripture. It's been a source of faith, mystery, and inspiration. Its stories of miracles, destruction, and ancient journeys have captured imaginations and sparked debate. While many accept these accounts on faith, others have searched for evidence of their historical truth. Over time, explorers, archaeologists, and curious travelers have uncovered visual clues that seem to support these ancient tales. From crumbling ruins said to be destroyed in biblical battles to weathered artifacts matching Old Testament descriptions, such discoveries stir wonder. In this collection, we explore 20 rare and astonishing photographs that echo the Bible's stories, images that encourage believers and skeptics alike to pause, reflect, and see the Bible through a new lens. 20. The solemn Western Wall. In the heart of Jerusalem's Old City, the Western Wall stands as a solemn monument to both history and faith. For centuries, this towering limestone barrier has been revered as the last remnant of the Second Temple, the sacred site central to Jewish worship during the time of Jesus. Pilgrims from around the globe come to touch its weathered stones, slipping handwritten prayers into the cracks, an act of devotion that transcends time. Modern skepticism toward biblical events often revolves around the lack of physical proof. Stories of temples, exiles, and sacred rituals can feel distant, wrapped in a haze of religious tradition rather than tangible evidence. Yet the Western Wall quietly rebukes these doubts. Excavations in and around the Temple Mount have confirmed the wall's origins in the Herodian period, around the 1st century BCE, which is precisely when biblical and historical texts say King Herod expanded the Second Temple. Roman records, including those of the historian Josephus, corroborate the temple's existence and the dramatic destruction in 70 CE by the armies of Titus. Even for non-believers, the wall is a stone-clad reminder that biblical Jerusalem was not a mythical city, but a living, thriving hub that suffered real sieges and bore witness to events still central to Jewish and Christian narratives today. In an era when many dismiss the Bible as fanciful myths or cultural fables, touching these stones is a raw encounter with a reality that Scripture described long before the modern historian or skeptic demanded evidence. 19. A step into Bethlehem's ancient streets. Walking through the narrow, cobbled streets of Bethlehem is like stepping into a living page of Scripture. The weathered limestone walls and arched passageways seem untouched by time, transporting visitors to the era when a young couple named Mary and Joseph entered this small Judean town. For believers, Bethlehem's streets are hallowed ground, the backdrop of Christ's birth. Modern archaeology and historical documentation confirm Bethlehem as a bustling town in the 1st century CE. The Roman census described in the Gospel of Luke, often doubted for its accuracy, aligns with the broader Roman practice of population registration, supported by papyrus records and inscriptions across the empire. Excavations have revealed 1st century homes, caves used as stables, and water cisterns which match the environmental details described in biblical texts. Unlike distant, symbolic imagery, these streets exist. They can be walked, touched, and photographed. For modern skeptics, Bethlehem serves as a reminder that the biblical accounts are rooted in tangible geography. While we may never pinpoint the exact spot of the manger or the precise route of the Magi, the enduring existence of the city challenges the notion that the origin story was created in a cultural vacuum. It anchors spiritual belief in real-world topography, turning abstract scripture into a traceable human story. 18. The Arch of Titus. In the bustling heart of Rome, the Arch of Titus rises as an imposing Roman triumphal monument. Interestingly, when you view photographs closely or stand close personally, the shadows of biblical accounts are immediately visible. Its carvings are more than decorative. They are a stone-bound record of devastation. It was commissioned in 81 CE by Emperor Domitian to honor his brother Titus. The arch commemorates Rome's victory in the Jewish War and the destruction of Jerusalem's Second Temple in 70 CE. Its most famous panel depicts Roman soldiers carrying the sacred menorah and temple treasures through the streets of Rome, which was a moment that connects the biblical accounts with historical documentation. For centuries, skeptics dismissed biblical accounts of the temple's grandeur or the cataclysm of its fall as exaggerations. Yet the Arch of Titus provides visual evidence that aligns seamlessly with Scripture. Roman records match the arch's message, confirming the siege of Jerusalem and the plundering of sacred objects. The menorah carved into the stone mirrors the descriptions of the lampstand from Exodus, cementing a bridge between the Torah, Jewish memory, and verifiable Roman history. Its existence demonstrates that the destruction of the temple was not only a theological catastrophe, but also a geopolitical reality, witnessed and celebrated by the Roman Empire. 17. Mount Sinai's Golden Sunrise. Mountains have always been monoliths of awe and mystery, and even in the Bible, they have played important roles. In today's age, few places in the world conjure a sense of awe like Mount Sinai to Christians. According to the book of Exodus, it was here that Moses ascended to meet God and receive the Ten Commandments, a pivotal moment that shaped not only the faith of Israel, but also the moral architecture of Western civilization. To those who question these accounts, this story often falls into the realm of legend, a narrative with moral weight, but no provable geography. Modern researchers have debated the exact location of the biblical Sinai, with candidates ranging from Egypt's traditional Jebel Musa to peaks in Saudi Arabia. Satellite imagery, inscriptions, and archaeological surveys in the region have uncovered evidence of nomadic habitation, ancient pathways, and altars that align with the general timeline of the Exodus. While not conclusive, this evidence gives weight to the notion that the story's setting was not invented out of whole cloth. For believers, the sunrise over Sinai is a visual sermon, a reminder that divine encounters often occur in wild, isolated places. Even in an age of satellites and digital maps, the combination of historical inquiry, photographs, and raw natural spectacle allows Sinai to straddle the line between myth and reality. Visitors who climb before dawn often describe a profound stillness at the summit, where the desert stretches endlessly below. Whether one hears the echo of God's voice or simply feels the enormity of human history, Mount Sinai offers a rare place where faith and evidence intertwine. Photographs of its silhouette at sunrise provide a silent, awe-inspiring reminder that some stories persist because they are etched into the landscapes themselves. 16. Jordan River Baptism Site. The Jordan River winds quietly through the landscape of Israel and Jordan, but along its banks lies a site revered as the location where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. This act, described in all four Gospels, marked the beginning of Christ's public ministry and remains a cornerstone of Christian sacramental tradition. Skeptics often approach these baptismal events as theological fantasies rather than historical events, but the Jordan River exists, and its waters have long been central to both regional history and biblical symbolism. Archaeological work at Al-Magdus on the Jordanian side has revealed Byzantine churches, baptismal pools, and pilgrim inscriptions dating as far back as the 4th century CE, when early Christians revered the site. Geological surveys confirm that the river's course has shifted over millennia, aligning with historical patterns of seasonal flooding and changing channels. But the general region fits the New Testament descriptions. Modern skepticism fades when confronted with the physical river and its documented role in religious life, spanning over 1,500 years. In contemporary times, pilgrims from across the world immerse themselves in the muddy waters of the Jordan, seeking spiritual renewal in the same river mentioned in the Bible. Meanwhile, historians and geographers analyze the site as a case study in how ritual landscapes persist across ages. For those who doubt biblical events entirely, standing on the riverbank may not induce belief, but it does eat away at the notion that these stories floated free of reality. The Jordan flows today as it did in antiquity, carrying with it the memory of a moment when sacred ritual crossed with the physical world. It's a small, living link between the intangible realm of faith and the observable evidence of history. 15. The elusive Tomb of the Patriarchs. In Hebron, the cave of Machpelah, which is known today as the Tomb of the Patriarchs, looms as one of the most enduring links between faith and reality. According to Genesis, this is likely the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as well as Sarah, Rebekah, and Leah. It is a site sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, revered as a tangible link to the patriarchs whose lives laid the foundation for three major world religions. The massive Herodian structure enclosing the cave dates to the 1st century BCE, matching the architectural style of other projects by King Herod, including the expansion of the Second Temple. Historical records from the Jewish historian Josephus and later Muslim chroniclers reference the site as a venerated location long before the modern era. Excavations in and around Hebron confirm continuous occupation over thousands of years, strengthening the argument that the biblical tradition of burial in this area reflects genuine historical memory. For faith communities, the tomb embodies promises fulfilled and ancestral continuity. For skeptics, it provides a rare case where a biblical location has been continuously identified, preserved, and revered for millennia. Unlike abstract theology, the Tomb of the Patriarchs is a stone and mortar testament to the lasting power of scriptural accounts to shape and survive in the physical world. Today, the site remains heavily guarded and politically sensitive, a reminder that the legacy of the patriarchs is not only spiritual, but also territorial. Standing before its weathered walls, one feels the authenticity of the Bible's accounts. The accounts of the Bible are numerous, and many accounts are contested. Many landmarks on the surface are relatively easily discovered, yet some lie underground waiting to be discovered, like the next one. 14. A marvel beneath the earth, Hezekiah's tunnel. Deep beneath the ancient city of Jerusalem lies a man-made marvel known as Hezekiah's tunnel, a narrow, hand-carved waterway stretching over 500 meters. Constructed in the 8th century BCE, it redirected water from the Gihon spring to the Pool of Siloam to protect the city's water supply during the Assyrian siege. For centuries, many dismissed such fears of biblical engineering as exaggerations. Yet the tunnel is there, chiseled in stone, echoing the hands of laborers from nearly 3,000 years ago. The Siloam inscription, discovered within the tunnel in 1880, provides rare first-hand evidence. Written in ancient Hebrew, it describes workers digging from opposite ends, meeting in the middle, a detail aligning perfectly with biblical references. Modern laser mapping and archaeological studies confirm the precision of the engineering, which would have required immense coordination and effort in a time without advanced tools. For believers, the tunnel is a tangible confirmation of Scripture, a relic that connects biblical kings to physical infrastructure. For skeptics, It's a sobering reminder that ancient narratives often contain verifiable elements. Hezekiah's tunnel demonstrates that the Bible's depiction of fortified Jerusalem wasn't simply symbolic. It was supported by clever urban planning that can still be walked through today. 13. The Sea of Galilee boat. In 1986, during a severe drought that lowered the waters of the Sea of Galilee, two fishermen stumbled upon a remarkable find. It was the preserved remains of a 2,000-year-old wooden boat. It measures roughly 27 feet long and was constructed with a patchwork of different woods and has since been dubbed the Jesus boat. While no evidence proves Jesus ever set foot on it, symbolically, the boat bridges the New Testament narratives with the realities of life along the Galilean shore. Radiocarbon dating and construction techniques place the boat firmly in the period of Jesus Christ's ministry, confirming the Gospel's cultural and technological relevance. The preservation of the boat under layers of silt was a stroke of luck, creating a time capsule of life in Roman Judea. Visitors today can see it at the Yigal Allon Museum, a silent reminder of the Gospel's very human backdrop. 12. The Red Sea Crossing. One of the most dramatic biblical events is the Exodus, where Moses leads the Israelites through the parted waters of the Red Sea. To most, this story has long sounded mythological, with no clear evidence to support such a miraculous crossing. Yet modern research and some intriguing underwater photographs invite reconsideration. In the Gulf of Aqaba, divers have captured images of coral formations resembling wheels, axles, and chariot-like structures. While interpretations remain debated, these formations align intriguingly with the biblical descriptions of Pharaoh's chariots being engulfed by returning waters. Geological studies also suggest that sudden wind-driven set-down effects can temporarily expose seabeds, a natural explanation that could collaborate with the timing of the Exodus story. The biblical text names locations and directions consistent with known geography, anchoring the tale in real terrain rather than vague myth. Science may one day fully decode the mechanisms behind the story, or it may forever remain partially in the realm of awe. Either way, these underwater formations and geographic studies suggest that the Exodus was not a purely fictional event born of imagination, but of a world in which faith and environment collided. 11. The Tower of Babel Echo. In the ruins of Borsippa, near Babylon in modern-day Iraq, a spiraling ziggurat rises in weathered remnants, often cited as a potential echo of the Tower of Babel. Genesis recounts humanity's audacious attempt to build a tower to the heavens, which God thwarted by confusing their language. To many skeptics, this is a creation myth, explaining linguistic diversity without a historical basis. Yet, the existence of monumental Mesopotamian ziggurats offers a compelling historical framework for the story. Ziggurats were massive temple structures built in stages, their purpose often blending religion, politics, and astronomical observation. Ancient records describe the Borsippa ziggurat as the Tongue Tower, and inscriptions reference attempts to rebuild it after divine disfavor, which is eerily similar to the tales told in Genesis. Archaeologists have confirmed that the structure suffered repeated destruction and reconstruction, reinforcing the idea of human ambition meeting natural or divine limitations. The surviving ruins testify that ancient Mesopotamians reached skyward with stone and faith, leaving physical traces that align with the biblical theme of human pride. 10. The Dead Sea Scrolls. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd threw a rock into a cave near Qumran and heard the shatter of pottery. This was the start of a discovery that would transform biblical teachings. Inside were the Dead Sea Scrolls, a collection of manuscripts dating from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, including some of the oldest surviving texts of the Hebrew Bible. For modern critics, who often argue that Scripture evolved through centuries of embellishment, the scrolls provided a stunning counterpoint. Comparisons between the scrolls and later biblical manuscripts revealed remarkable consistency, particularly in books like Isaiah. This challenged the notion that biblical texts were wildly altered or invented in later eras. Archaeological study of the Qumran settlement, combined with carbon dating of the scrolls, confirmed their authenticity and anchored biblical writings firmly in their historical context. For believers, the Dead Sea Scrolls are a bridge across millennia, supporting the reliability of sacred texts. For critics, they are a humbling reminder that oral tradition and written scripture were handled with more accuracy than once assumed. Their existence blurs the line between faith and history, showing that devotion to preserving these words left a literal, physical mark in desert caves. Today, fragments of the scrolls rest in climate-controlled cases, yet their impact reaches far beyond academia. In a world questioning the veracity of the Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls stand as silent proof that biblical texts are not mere myths. They are rooted in real ink, parchment, and history. 9. The Garden Tomb. The Garden Tomb, found just outside the walls of Jerusalem, has long been revered as a potential site of Jesus' burial and resurrection. The Garden Tomb presents a simple stone-hewn chamber with a rolling stone groove akin to the New Testament account in a strikingly tangible way. Resurrection generally remains a profound challenge to believe. Yet, the Garden Tomb provides a bridge, not by proving the miraculous, but by grounding the biblical accounts in a plausible physical setting. Archaeologists note that the tomb fits descriptions from the Gospels as it bears all the necessary markers. It is cut into rock, features an entry for a rolling stone, and sits within a garden-like area, matching the account of Mary Magdalene's encounter with the risen Jesus. While many scholars maintain that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is historically more likely, the Garden Tomb's very existence reinforces the possibility of the story's cultural and geographical elements. It reminds us that Jesus' burial was not a mythological construct, but one that occurred within a real landscape, among real tombs carved by human hands. In the Bible, the Tower of Babel isn't the only time humanity's exuberance has earned the ire of God. One such time depicts a time when cities were once struck off the earth for their sinful ways. 8. The ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah. On the shores of the Dead Sea, the scorched ruins of ancient settlements have long stirred debate over the biblical destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The Genesis account describes cities consumed by fire and brimstone, a tale often dismissed as moral examples or myth. Yet archaeological investigations in the region, particularly at sites like Tal el-Hammam, have uncovered evidence of sudden, catastrophic destruction. Charred layers, melted pottery, and spherules of sulfur-rich material suggest an event involving extreme heat. Some scientists propose that a meteor airburst, similar to the Tunguska event in 1908, could have obliterated these cities, creating a cataclysm that later inspired the biblical account. Researchers have even found small balls of nearly pure sulfur embedded in the ruins, echoing the brimstone described in Scripture. To critics, Sodom's destruction may not confirm divine wrath, but it does confirm that the region experienced a cataclysm matching the account's intensity. In an era where myth and history are often separated, the ruins show that environmental and cosmic forces could have generated the awe and fear that fueled the story. 7. The Pillar of Salt. Continuing on the premise of the previous clue, clues to other accounts related to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah surface. On the western shores of the Dead Sea, A solitary stone formation rises from the desolate landscape, shaped uncannily like a human figure. Locals and pilgrims alike have long referred to it as Lot's wife, the woman in Genesis who turned to gaze upon the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and was transformed into a pillar of salt. Modern science explains the region's geology as a mixture of salt, gypsum, and soft rock, eroded over millennia into strange shapes. To the skeptic, this pillar of salt is simply nature's handiwork. 6. The Pool of Siloam. Discovered in 2004 during infrastructure work in Jerusalem, the Pool of Siloam has transformed how even skeptical scholars view the New Testament's historical precision. Mentioned in the Gospel of John as the site where Jesus healed a man born blind, the pool was long considered either a symbolic or exaggerated location. The unearthing of its broad stone steps and water channels proved otherwise. Archaeologists revealed a pool large enough for ritual bathing, aligning with Jewish purification practices of the period. Its placement along a known water system, fed by Hezekiah's tunnel, further confirmed its authenticity. For skeptics, the discovery demonstrated that the Gospel writers possessed detailed geographical knowledge unlikely to persist in a fabricated account written generations later. 5. The Stone Tablets of Sinai. The giving of the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai is one of the most iconic events in all Scripture, a divine law delivered amid fire, thunder, and cloud. This story, according to some, represents theology rather than history. Yet the Sinai Peninsula continues to yield inscriptions and petroglyphs that bridge this story with a real-world backdrop. Photographs of ancient rock carvings and Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions evoke the biblical narrative. While no stone tablets from Moses' hands have been uncovered, the region's archaeological record confirms that early Semitic peoples were present and left behind evidence of literacy and religious practice in precisely the era Exodus traditions describe. 4. The City Beneath the Waves. Beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, off the coast of Egypt, lies the submerged city of Thonis Heracleion, a discovery closely linked to ancient Egypt. While the city is not named in Scripture, its existence and sudden disappearance echo the era of the Exodus, when the Bible describes a land of powerful cities, bustling trade, and sudden calamities. Thonis Heracleion sank into the sea nearly 1,200 years ago, likely due to soil liquefaction triggered by earthquakes and flooding. Divers have captured stunning photographs of colossal statues, toppled columns, and streets that once thrived with life. These underwater ruins remind modern observers that even the mightiest cities of antiquity can vanish almost overnight, validating the broader biblical narrative of human impermanence and divine warning. 3. The Majesty of David's Citadel. Towering over Jerusalem's old city, the ruins known as the Citadel of David, or the Tower of David, have long drawn the attention of archaeologists, historians, and pilgrims alike. Though the structure visible today includes Crusader and Ottoman layers, its foundations rest on fortifications that trace back to the biblical era, aligning with descriptions of King David's city. 2. Mount Ararat's icy mystery. Similar to Mount Sinai, Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey looms not just as a geographic landmark, but as a beacon of one of the Bible's most enduring mysteries, the resting place of Noah's Ark. For centuries, explorers and adventurers have reported sighting a ship-like structure trapped within the mountain's glaciers, and modern aerial and satellite images have periodically reignited debate about what, if anything, lies frozen in the ice. Many argue that such formations are likely natural ridges or rock outcrops, yet the very existence of these anomalies stirs the imagination. 1. The walls of Jericho. The story of Jericho's walls tumbling down after Joshua's 7-day march is among the Bible's most dramatic depictions of divine intervention in battle. For centuries, critics dismissed it as legend until archaeological excavations at Tel Es Sultan began uncovering evidence that sparked renewed debate. Aerial and ground photography of the site reveals collapsed stone walls and layers of destruction dating back thousands of years. Early 20th century excavations by John Garstang reported findings consistent with sudden citywide ruin. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video is released.